Good morning, Blue Jay fans. This is Patrick Russell, class of '89 and a Blue Jay, and we are now on episode 10 of the We Want More Vodcast.
Winds up, big scores another one for Hopkins.
The test was just called it right in there. Shot the goal right out front. The Blue Jays
does not wear a brace. Never has shown any adverse effects. Harrison with it. Big shot. Scores! Kyle Harrison goes high. That's it. It's over. Johns Hopkins has won its ninth national championship.
Pete, good morning. Rainy here. I'm sure it's rainy there. How we doing?
Great. Yeah, it's definitely raining here. It's been a rainy week so far, but it's always a beautiful day on Homewood, so we still get to go outside and play in it.
That's right. It's awesome. Hey, hard to believe we're at episode 10. I think of the great 10s at Hopkins. Number one, Jeff Cook, the great Jeff Cook from the late 70s, early 80s. Rest in peace, Jeff Cook. Stephen Boyle, Greg Edmonds. I'm going to throw some oldies at you. Jimmy Webster from the 60s.
Okay.
And one of the great names at Hopkins, all-time great names. We should do a top 10 great names of Hopkins. Charlie Coker.
Yeah.
So here we are, 10. Here we are at 10, Pete. Pete, I really enjoyed having a chance for everyone to hear from Jameson and Coach Crawley last week as our defensive and offensive coordinators, respectively. Great to have you back. You come off a great win against Michigan and the Wolverines at Homewood Field. Just give us a quick, replay and thoughts on the Michigan game.
Sure. First, I want to thank those guys for filling in last week, and more probably on request to get them in here. I'm sure that was a good one. Hopefully, it didn't raise the bar too high for me, and really challenge me to keep up. They do that on a daily basis. I'm sure you guys really enjoyed that one. But as far as the Michigan game goes, I even think connecting what I just said with those two guys. I mean, I thought some of the moves that they made in prepping for the game and in the halftime adjustments were really pivotal. We went into halftime. We were up by a goal. But we were losing in a lot of statistical categories. We were down in faceoffs and ground balls and, a lot of different, categories that we talk about on a regular basis being our priorities. And in the second half, we cleared perfectly. We out-ground balled them. We outscored them. We won the faceoffs. We kind of, flipped it in that second half. And I thought that was really a testament to two parts. One was the coaching staff, making some really key adjustments at halftime, and also the guys just trusting and buying in and what we're doing. And sometimes those things are tough, making, adjustments on lineup and personnel. And, I know everybody wants to play, and sometimes those are tough when we're going to tell you, you're going to do this instead of that. And, they just have to buy in and be selfless about it. And I thought they did a great job of that. And it came through in the execution down the stretch. And, it was able to move to 2-0 in the conference, which is huge, and have, two big wins behind us with Rutgers and Michigan.
Sure. And you're beating the defending, Big Ten champ. A little insight for us, please. Halftime. I mean, obviously in the first half, I always take notes and watch the game twice. Obviously, Justin Whitfeld from Michigan. I live in New Canaan. Justin's a New Canaan kid. Mm-hmm. He was dominant at the faceoff X. We saw a little bit of ball watching defensively. There was obviously some turnovers on clears and rides and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. Just what's the message at halftime? Because there really was an explosion in the second half for the Blue Jays. What was said at half?
I think we went into half doing a good job on either end of the field in the half with execution. I think our guys were converting offensive opportunities, although we didn't get a ton. And I thought defensively, outside of the first half of the I'd say the first 10 minutes, settled in and we're much better, playing the ball and challenging them to find off ball opportunities. I don't think you can be too slide happy against Michigan. They feed the inside really well. They got some broken plays, some transition stuff like that. You mentioned the clears. I mean, I think it was really just about settling into what we know how to do and executing with some a little more determination. Be a little bit more decisive. Just put your foot in the ground, pick a direction, and go. Don't hesitate on the clear and throw the ball back and forth 3 times. Like, he's open, give him the ball and let him work his way up. And if he brings multiple people to him, then he's done his job. He moves it, and then we work out the other side. And sometimes you get, especially with younger guys, and we got a lot of mixture of a lot, but they get stuck in between things sometimes, and you just want to sort it out and make it really clear where we need to assert ourselves. And I thought those adjustments were really helpful at halftime. I thought the faceoffs probably keyed that shift in the second half, and I think we need to be a little more disciplined on the ball. We weren't getting that ball out of the X there really well. But we definitely needed to make an adjustment on the wings, and we didn't use Casey McDermott much in the first half, and I think we were a little overly concerned with some substitution games, and so we decided we just needed to give him a chance, and I think he maybe sparked some of that comeback too, because he just
Right.
he's selling out for ground balls, even if he's not picking them up, he's making it hard for them. He's picking up some tough ones. TD wasn't at 100%, so we tried to go with him for a little while, but he just was really struggling physically, so we had to make the adjustment to Logan, and he did a much better job in the second half. And I thought it was great for all those guys to make some adjustment and redirect their efforts in a different way, and it proved to be successful.
Great. Couple of the players I thought that really stood out. A lot of players stood out, but Jonathan Peshko had a great. He's bigger than people think, and Paul Carcaterra mentioned he's 6'4", big kid, but he's very slippery, like an Angelus or a Dylan Bauer. Talk a little bit about Jonathan's game.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good the other day, and sometimes it just doesn't go as noticed because maybe he does it on the back end of the play, or he finishes, or he gets a subtle move and it doesn't look like a big dramatic move. Like you said, he kind of slippery there. He had a play in the first quarter that I thought was maybe as significant as anything, and it really went unnoticed. It was an early clear, and we tried to throw the ball back to a D midi, and it went over his head, and it rolled to the midline where Peshko was waiting to sub.
Yes.
Well, he boxed his guy out at the midline without stepping on the line, picked up the ground ball, and then protected it for a couple seconds while he waited for the D midi to sub over. And then he finished the clear like right at 61 seconds. And I thought it was a tough play, but it was a really smart play to save a big possession early in the game. I thought that would have been a really tough turnover for us. Like, it was like our second possession, maybe even the first one.
Sure.
And I thought that, that really highlighted like his value is not just, he's not just a goal scorer, a shooter, or whatever. Like, he's one of our better, two-way guys. Like, he gets back on defense and makes a tough play there. He communicates in transition. He's not afraid to get back and, cut off a break. And I thought some of the offensive things he did were really nice. I know he's going to work on those give and goes, and he finishes well, and he's, slicker on the cage. But seeing him compete and work in the middle of the field to get us a possession, I thought was a great version for us.
Yeah. Look, staying on target with him, the give and go game that you have with your players is really fun to watch. You had about 3 or 4 give and go goals. Jonathan was a part of that, and really great. And the play that you mentioned, I remember, and it would be great if maybe we overlay it onto the final podcast, because I remember that him standing at the midfield line. So yeah. You love smart lacrosse players.
Yeah, it was a good one. It was one of our winning clips from film on Monday. I mean, it was it doesn't go in the stat book, but like that's a play that kind of sets a tone in the game.
Pete, any goal's a good goal. We had a lot of transition goals. Transition goals are fun. They're fun for the fans. I guess you'll take any goal the way you can get it, but it really is. Just talk a little bit about the way we run our transition. Breaking up a clear, riding. That
sure.
Kind of
Yeah. I mean, we want all of our guys to be aggressive. So we're pushing, the urgency to get the ball from one end of the field to the other. Obviously, there's a clearing component to it, but if we get out there before the ride starts, then that gives us a better chance of starting some early offense. But really just talking to the rope guys about how they space the field, the timing of who's cutting and where they're going, and that opens up some opportunities. Maybe for the other offensive guys, the other attackmen, if the defensive guys just cut, or set a pick and change some matchups, then they get a new look. But we had a goal which was Brett Martin passing it to Hunter Juronski, and he just stepped into a good fundamental high to low shot, and it was great. And I think one of the other ones you're mentioning was Scotty Smith on a turnover in the ride and pushing it the other way. And he did a great job. Like, he pushes the ball and he just cuts and he draws some attention. Right. And if he's open, he's open. If he's not, he draws somebody to give some space to Garrett Degnan, which is a great option if he gets his hands free.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, we've had a few of those. We're trying to ride more competitively this year. I think we've done that a bit. The teams we're playing now are all real good clearing teams. So it's tough to ride the ball back. They're not reckless or sloppy, but we want to get our second chance opportunities everywhere we can.
Right. Defender of the week in the Big Ten, Bowden Zulik. Large number of caused turnovers. The old people like us who say, "Get off my lawn." We talk about stick technology these days. Ball's never on the ground anymore. But we had a lot of caused turnovers. Bowden played great. Tell us a little bit about his defensive stance for Michigan or against Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, he's he had the toughest matchup. He's guarding 44 on their team, was the leading scorer in the country.
Right.
And they really jam the ball to him every chance they can. So that's a stressful matchup when you are in charge of an assignment that you can't really give him an inch because he's going to find a window and score. But you also got to support your guys and play team defense. And I thought Bo did a great job of that. He did find himself in some opportunities on the perimeter, and he had some, I thought, really timely caused turnovers. They felt like they were when we really needed one. And he
right.
He does a good job of pushing out and I don't know, dictating, I guess, a little bit more, like pushing the pace. If they want to stand around, Bo wants you to go. And he got a stick on their gloves a few times and got the ball down and picked up his own ground ball too, which was great, and got it up the field. So, I think our guys always rally around him. He's a, captain, a leader for us. He's been a consistent defensive starter for a long time. I think he had 5 ground balls and 3 caused turnovers, which is huge. And earned himself, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week.
Sure. And the pride of Avon Old Farms.
Yeah.
Gives us an excuse to say the winged beavers of Avon.
Yeah, the winged beavers.
And we've had a lot of great Avon players come to Hopkins. Okay. So a few more things about this game. The picks and the repicks. I'm always intrigued about picks and repicks. And I noticed in this game a couple times when our players say, "You know what? I don't need you to pick." You'll sometimes see like Angel say, wave off, like, "I'm actually going to reset this a different way." Is that just improvisation by the team? Is that practice? Am I making sense what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll see a pick, a repick. You'll see a pick and repick, and then you'll see a player wave that third pick off and be like, "You know what? We're going to reestablish ourselves."
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of both, because the guys have the ability on the field to make those decisions and make those calls, and coaches trying to put that in their hands as much as possible. But they're going over it all week, and they're trying to set specific picks in certain places on certain guys because of the scout and things like that. And so, a lot of that is a bit more choreographed than maybe it looks, but there's a lot of real time effect to it. So it's not like, it's a drawn up play where they go out there, but if coaches talking about, who we want to get the ball where and what we're looking to do, you'll see them go back and forth across that a couple of times, or kind of go back to it, or they'll keep picking on the same guy in the same spots. And so if maybe they're not getting it, I think that's where Angel is, as the kind of the director down there, able to reset, to restart the engine, go the other way, go find a different pick. Maybe if he has a matchup he wants, he doesn't feel like he needs one. And sometimes there's guys that can dodge and don't necessarily need the interference. And so it's all a matter of what they see. Right.
Just a quick observation too, comparing old days versus new days, there's really no midfield attack. Paul Carcaterra mentioned this. You have 6 guys who play offense and they can almost go from anywhere. There isn't really midi up top attack. There's a lot of inverting, and it's amazing how you really just put the best offensive players out there at a given time.
They're all mix and match. There's a lot of midfielders behind inverting. The attack is moving around. They're also trying to switch matchups. So, if Angel gets a short, he might be able to go back behind, but if he gets it up top, it might just be easier to just go from there and not, restart by moving all the way behind and give them a chance to switch back or something like that. So yeah, they move
Yeah.
around a lot. It can be a little
Good.
chaotic. Sometimes it's a little tough in the ride, but we got to sort through it.
Pete, one more position question before we get on to the next game versus Penn State.
Mm-hmm.
Your short stick D middies, whether it's the beginning of the season or in season, do me a favor. When are you determining this kid, this young man is going to be one of our short stick D middies? And not
When do we decide that?
Yeah, I mean, is it when you scout them, when you're recruiting them? When do you determine that Hunter Juronski, that kid's going to be a D midi for us, a short stick D midi?
Well, some of those guys are a little different because Hunter was here before we showed up, and so
Right.
he was a long stick, and I think it was, in the process of Coach Kester, kind of playing around with the guys that are here and what he wants to see and what he needs. It's such a crucial position. If you don't have good short stick
Right.
D middies, you don't really defend anybody well. And if you have really good short stick D middies, it makes every bit of defense you play behind them a lot different. If you're going to get sliding like crazy, it's one version of a defense. If you don't have to slide the same time all the time, that's a very, very different version. So to answer your question, it can happen at any time. I mean, there's plenty of guys that you see in the recruiting process that you're like, that's my guy, that's a D midi. They're starting to get a little bit more specialization in high school now, so that you're going to get consistent D middies. We have guys coming in that we know are going to be D middies when they get here, but who knows? Maybe they switch and become poles. We have poles who might become short sticks. We have O middies that'll become defensive guys. Attack may come midfielders, whatever.
Right.
There are some that it just happens, magically over time, but coach is he's always playing with those things. Like I can't tell you how many defensemen yesterday at practice were using a short stick, like plenty of poles that are regular long sticks. In a drill yesterday, like Jacob Stabner had a short stick and Nick Kaufman and he'll just keep mixing and matching things like that. Sometimes to change up how you're playing, sometimes to change up what the offense is going to do against you, to put you in a different spot, really just kind of reset your fundamentals. I mean, you play differently when you have a short stick, and so it forces you to move your feet a little bit better.
Right.
So a lot of times those short sticks are the guys that can do it because it's a hard position.
Yeah, understood. I asked the question because of the plethora of talented short stick D middies that we have, and it just made me ask that question: when do you see something special in a player? So thanks.
I mean, Jackson
Now we're
played
moving
offense
on to
for a little while, so
yeah,
and they switch around.
And like I said, I always love it when defenders and short stick D middies in transition go down and score goals. A fun question I had for Coach Kester last week, if you watched, was: is there a defenseman you don't want to shoot in transition? So
what was his answer?
I think it was Scott Smith. And by the way, what was nice about having those two as our hosts last week is to see Coach Kester smile. It's nice to see him laugh every now and then.
I agree. It is nice.
All right, so we move on to Penn State. And
Okay.
Penn State comes off of a very tough loss against Maryland on Sunday night. Pretty much ahead the whole game. They're talented. What do you see in Penn State that you need to be aware of for Saturday?
The pace that they play at is tough. They run a motion offense. They do a great job getting it from one end to the other. They don't really take their foot off the gas all that much. And if you can keep up with it, that's one thing. If you can't, it's a really tough scenario. And you saw, probably early in that Maryland game, they were playing a little bit behind them, and Penn State just, they get shots off, they get quality shots, they move the ball, they attack you constantly. And, it was tough for them in that situation. I think, speaking of that game, I think that, they settled in and got a little bit, tougher defensively where they needed. And I think that's, a good lesson for us, but, keep control the pace of the game. They got a really strong face-off unit. They use a couple guys there. So if they get on a run, that can be tough. You want to make sure that you're managing the clock well there and not, letting them go on runs and over again attacking your net. So we need to be smart with how that's going. But, probably similar to what we just came out of a game with, that, we're seeing the other team have a little run on the draws and the possessions, and we need to make sure that we're managing them well. We're getting our stops when we need them, valuing the possession when we get over the midfield, and clearing efficiently. So I would say there's a lot of similarities there going week to week.
Understood. They have a lot of talented players in preseason, All-Americans, and Jack Frascion in goal, who had a great Final Four, last year. TJ Malone on midfield, Matt Trainer on defense. Want to draw a connection to Hopkins. Grant Hawes, their short stick D-Midi, the youngest son of John Hawes, who was a defensive coordinator and head coach for 2 seasons here at JHU. So nice little connection there.
Yep.
All right, Coach. So you know how this goes. After 10 of these, I kind of dive into some of the fun stuff so we can get some insight into the team. So I have my questions, my sort of rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
All right. And the answers from the assistant coaches last week were hilarious. The one player on your team, the one player that you would say, I want you to come to my house so Megan and I can have a night out. I want you to babysit my kids. Who's the one player you would want to watch your kids?
Russell Melendez. He's great. I've had a bunch of them over. Alec Billings is really good. Scotty and Vern were over not too long ago. I mean, they're all great. They care, but Russell's been over, and he's one that, like, when my family comes to campus, and they hang out, like he go in the film room and he's in there like playing games on the board with the girls, and he just like they loved him up when he was over the other day. They had such a good time, and he's pushing them on the swings, and we went to the playground. It was cool. He does a great job.
That's awesome.
Really great young man, and I would absolutely trust him. I don't know if he'd want to do it for very long. It's a lot, but
good. But Russell Melendez, who kind of lit it up last week as well. He's starting to get into his groove. All right.
Had a great day.
If you feel like you don't want to answer this question, that's fine. You can plead the fifth, but I got to go in the opposite direction. You're lying in bed. It's 2 a.m. The phone rings. Who is the one player you're worried about?
Oh, yeah. I'm not answering that right now.
Okay, that's fine.
We got a lot of really nice young men. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but
I just wanted the humor in the question. That's all.
That's
not
fair.
the answer.
I hope we don't. I hope we don't get that phone call. That's the answer.
Yeah. If you want to know, in our day in the late 80s, it was Matt Pinetta.
Fair.
And I just threw Matt under the bus. All right. President Ron Daniels calls and says, we're having a trustee dinner on Sunday, and I want you to bring to me 2 players who can sit with the trustees at a trustee dinner. Who are those 2 players?
The first one I'm going to bring is probably Hunter Duronsky. He's great in those things. I trust him completely. He's very talkative. He's very charismatic and always engaging. And every time the bus stops somewhere on a road trip, he's talking to somebody. He's making a friend at the hotel. Like he's just like that. And he does a fantastic job with it. And I would say he would be a value add. And then I would probably say one of the older guys. It's kind of easy to default to grads because they're older. So I'll probably stick with like seniors. I might say Brennan Grimes or Pat Deans would both do a really good job in those settings.
Okay.
Good. Buttoned up, do the right things. Good, can tell them about where they're at, what their major was. I think that.
And Patrick Deans can talk, biomedical engineering with a couple of people at the table, right?
Yeah. He's a sharp one. I think he's mechanical engineering, but yeah, he's a hard worker.
All right. Last question. And I had to do this from an editing standpoint because this was brought to my attention. You know that the more that we do of these, the more feedback I get from alums, old and young.
I would assume, yeah.
You never mention this. You never mention that. So who would the ladies like to be on the cover of a magazine? And the reason I ask is because we need to note that the great Jerry Schmidt, class of 62, ended up being a great coach at Princeton. Jerry Schmidt is the only lacrosse player to appear on Sports Illustrated. I'm sure you know that. So Jerry Schmidt, there he is on the wall. So Jerry Schmidt, class 62 on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Who's the one player that we think the ladies would like to see on a magazine cover?
Other than Eric McDonald, he'd probably be the first vote. I don't know. Mike Trepida. I'll give you guys those 2. Eric or Mike. Good. Yep. They would be the cover boy.
Yeah, from Long Island, right? So that's good.
Mhm. Eric from the pride of Sarnia, Ontario.
Yeah, there you go. If you've never been to Sarnia, Ontario, you need to go.
Just north of
Okay,
Detroit.
excellent. Also, I just wanted to give this one quick shout out. Jacob Angelus, Angels we call him, had 1-4 against Michigan. He's now one of only 8 players to have 100 career assists. Little tidbit for you, a little tidbit. I'm going way back into the archives. Mickey Webster, the great Mickey Webster, Coach Milliman. Mickey Webster, I think, was one of those guys that used to call on a Monday. He used to call Coach Chick and Coach Zim and, draw up plays and tell them how they should have changed things for the game. But Mickey Webster holds the record still, class of 59, for most assists in a game. 9.
Oh yeah.
Nine
that's a lot.
assists in the game. Yeah, Mickey Webster had 9 assists in the game. I think he fed Bill Morrill most of those. But, we have a guy like Angel, who's kind of getting up in those record books with the great Mickey Webster.
Let's see if we can get him 9 assists. That'd be
Good.
great.
Let's do it.
I like it.
All right,
yeah,
Coach.
he's
So
doing
we have
great.
Penn State. We have Penn State coming up. I apologize. I did not do my research on this. I presumed, the game is at what time?
2 p.m.
2
Homecoming.
p.m.
It's homecoming weekend.
It is homecoming. You'll see a lot of alums out there, a lot of former players, the marching of the parade. Remember, we're one of the great institutions that celebrates homecoming in the spring. Also,
Festivities
it's Giving
everywhere.
Week. It's also Coach Giving Week. We want all of our lacrosse alums. Many of you who watch this podcast are our former players, young and old. Give to the lacrosse program. Doesn't have to be big dollars. We're looking for participation. You are a part of this great legacy and tradition of lacrosse that started in 1883. Make a gift. $25, $50, $100. Let's get the participation up. So it's Giving Week.
Yeah, that's huge. The dollar amount certainly helps. It helps us raise funds for the things that we need and that make a difference on the field. A lot of the behind the scenes stuff that impacts the day-to-days of what we do to get the boys out on the field in a better spot. But really, I think the biggest part is just the engagement and just asking as many alums as possible just to participate and give as a minimum of $10 is just to keep guys. We're asking the seniors on our team count towards Giving Week, so they're all given their $10 and all the recent alums, and so we're just trying to continue to build the support and the commitment to the program.
Great, thank you. All right, 2 p.m. homecoming. Hopefully we'll have some good weather for you. You have practice this afternoon. Pete, thank you again, and stick 'em Jays.
Got it. Thanks for having me.